In this lesson, we will learn how to divide a fraction by a whole number. So when we are dividing fractions, this really means that we are dividing each fractional part into smaller equal parts or units. And so we're going to look at what that means with this first problem. It says Mara cuts a piece of rectangular clay in half. She then divides 1/2 into 3 equal parts. What fraction of the whole piece of clay is each of the 3 parts? Okay, so let's just go ahead and visualize this first of all. All right, so we can see the whole, this would be one whole. And she does not have a whole piece of clay. She has a half a piece of clay. And so that's the part that we're looking at, is a half of a piece of clay. And it's shaded in orange. Now it says she then divides the half into 3 equal parts. So if we say that here's the half, and we're going to divide that into 3 equal parts, this is the part that we're looking for. And so we can see that when we take half, or when we divide that half into 3 equal parts, well, in the whole, it would be the pieces or the units we're looking at are 6, right? So this is 1/6, this is 1/6, this is 1/6, because how many 6 would give us one whole? 6, 6. That's one whole. So when we take a half and we divide it into 3 equal pieces, if we look at one of those pieces, it's going to be 1/6. So this model shows that each part is 1/6 of the whole piece of clay. So when Mara cuts the piece of rectangular clay in half, and then she further divides that into 3 equal parts, the fractional part of the clay would be 1/6. Now we just looked at how we might use a model when we're dividing a fraction by a whole number. Next, I want to show you how we there's another method for doing this as well. And before I show that to you, I just want to kind of review some basic division, right? So we know that 12 divided by 2 is 6. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 6 divided by 2 is not 6. It would be 3. And so what I want you to notice here is when we are dividing a number by 2, we are basically taking half of that number, right? Half of 12 is 6. Half of 8 is 4. Half of 6 is 3. So when we're dividing by 2, we're taking half of the number. When we're dividing by 3, then, we're taking a third of the number. So a third, or 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 is 1/3 of 12, right? Because if I had 3 4s, 3 4s would give me 12. So 4 is 1/3 of 12. And when I divide 9 by 3, I'm basically taking a third of 9. And so 3 3s would get me to 9. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So when we're dividing by 3, we're taking a third of that number. So we're going to apply that now in our next method for dividing a fraction by a whole number. Okay, so in this problem, just as a reminder, Mara's taking a half a piece of clay and then dividing that clay into 3 equal parts. So if we were going to write an expression for this, we would say 1/2 divided by 3. And so remember how we said when we were dividing a number by 3, we're really taking a third of that number. So we could rewrite this and say 1/3 of 1/2. Well, we know that of in math means to multiply. So it's really taking 1/3 times 1/2. And numerator times numerator is 1. Denominator times denominator is 6. And so each part is 1/6 of the whole piece of clay, just like we saw in our model. This would represent 1/6 of each part. Now, the third method I want to show you really builds on that last method that we looked at. Understanding that when you are dividing by 3 or dividing a number by 3, you're really taking a third of that number. Okay, so method 3, the method I'm going to show you right now, really builds off of that concept. So one vocabulary word that you need to be familiar with is the word reciprocal. And so 1/3 is the reciprocal of 3/1. So reciprocal is we're turning or switching the numerator and the denominator. It's the opposite. And so when we say to find the reciprocal of 3, well, first we would have to put the whole number over 1. And so the reciprocal of 3/1 would be 1/3. Okay, so one other thing I wanted to mention about a reciprocal is a lot of times you might hear the phrase flip. And so that's what you're really doing is you are flipping the numerator and the denominator. So what is the reciprocal of 3? The reciprocal would be 1/3 because we're flipping the numerator. We're taking the denominator and making it the numerator, and the numerator and making it the denominator. So that's the reciprocal of 3 would be 1/3. Now when you multiply a number times its reciprocal, you're always going to get 1 whole. 3 times 3 is 3, 1 times 3 is 3, 3/3 is 1 whole. So when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you will always get 1 whole. So how does this apply in using method 3 to divide a fraction by a whole number? Okay, well, when you look at 1/2 divided by 3, in some math classes in this method, there's a method called keep, change, and flip. This is kind of the shortcut in dividing. And so if you can remember keep, change, and flip, this will help you remember how to divide a fraction by a whole number. So the keep means we're going to keep the half. So there's nothing we do with the half. The change means you're going to change that division sign into a multiplication sign. And the flip means we're going to take the whole number 3 and we're going to find its reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. Remember, we're just flipping the numerator and the denominator. And so now we have 1/2 times 1/3, and we can multiply, and that gives us 1/6. So the third method, which is kind of the shortcut method, the keep, change, flip, helps you to easily divide a fraction by a whole number. Let's look at another example. This problem says a roll of wire 3/5 feet long is cut into 6 equal pieces. How long is each piece? Okay, well, the first thing we want to realize is that our whole would be 1 foot. That's our whole. So the fractional part that we're looking at is that the roll of wire is 3/5 of a foot long. So here's the portion that we're looking at. Again, the whole would be 5/5. Okay, so of that 3/5, it is cut into 6 equal pieces. So if we look at this, here's our 6 equal pieces. And so each fifth, right? Each fifth, let me get another color here, is equal to 2 of those smaller parts. So let's divide our whole then into equal parts. And so that gives us, how many in the whole? That would give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now our whole is 10/10. So when I take 3/5 and I divide it into six smaller pieces or 6 equal pieces, one of those pieces would represent 1/10. So 3/5 divided into 6 equal parts gives us 1/10. Taking a sixth of 3/5 gives me 1/10. All right, now that we've seen the model of dividing the fractional part by a whole number, let's review the 2 other methods that we've talked about. So remember when we said that dividing by 2 means we're taking half of that number. So taking half of 12, we get 6. Or dividing by, let's see, dividing by 3 is taking a third of 6. And a third of 6 is 2, because 3 2s would make up the number 6. So if the same holds true if we are dividing with a fraction. And so in this problem, it says 3/5 divided by 6. Well, I'm going to take a sixth of 3/5. And so if we write that in words or numbers and words, a sixth of 3/5, we know that of in math means to multiply. So 1/6 times 3/5 gives us, let's see, 3/30. And 3/30 in simplest form would be 1/10, because I can divide the numerator and the denominator by 3. So I get 1/10. So we know each piece is 1/10 feet long. And just to go back and review with our model, we saw that each piece would be 1/10 long. Now with the third method, remember we talked about using that little shortcut of keep, change, and flip. So we keep the first fraction, 3/5. We change division to multiplication. And the last step is to flip the whole number. So 6 over 1 would become 1/6. So keep, change, flip. So 3 times 1 would be 3. 5 times 6 is 30. And again, in simplest form would be 1/10. So each piece is 1/10 of a foot long. Okay, let's look at this next one. It says find 9/11ths divided by 3. So first of all, we need to think about our whole. Our whole would be 11/11ths. So that's, we can see here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's our 11/11ths. Now we are only looking at 9/11ths. So we're going to take that 9/11ths and we're going to divide the 9/11ths into 3 groups. So there's 1, 2, 3. And so we want to see how much one of those parts would be. And so when we divide it into 3 smaller groups, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3 elevenths. So those 3 elevenths represent what 9/11ths would be dividing it by 3. Now that's using the model. Let's look at the next method. Remember we said that whenever we're dividing by a number, we're actually taking a fractional part of it. So we're taking a third of 9/11ths. So we could say 9/11ths times 1/3. And 9 times 1 is 9. And 11 times 3 is 33. Well, if I divide the numerator and the denominator by 3, they share a common factor of 3, I get 3/11ths, the same as the model method. Okay, time for you to practice this. I'm going to have you do these 3 problems. However, I want to kind of walk through setting each of them up using the second 2 methods we talked about. I'm not going to use a model to solve these, although if you want to try using a model to solve them, that's fine. But I want to focus on the last 2 methods that we use. So, like I said, I want to get these set up, and then I'm going to have you solve them on your own. Okay, so 6/11ths divided by 3. When we're dividing by 3, we're actually taking a third of that number. So this is like saying 1/3 of 6/11ths. And in number 5, if we're dividing by 4, we're actually taking a fourth of the number that we're dividing. And so this would be saying 1/4 of 8/9. And in number 6, if you're dividing a number by 2, you're actually taking half of that number. So we could say 1/2 of 3/7. And of course in math, we know that of means to multiply, and so you would solve. Now, if that method makes sense for your brain, use that method. I want to show you the other method and set those up for you using the third method we looked at, and then you can solve. Okay, so the third method we talked about was the keep, change, flip method. And this is kind of the little shortcut in dividing a fraction by a whole number. So we keep the first fraction, we change the division sign to multiplication, and we flip 3/1 to its reciprocal, 1/3. Flipping is actually the process of finding the reciprocal. So keep, change, flip, we have 6/11ths times 1/3. Keep, change, flip, we keep 8/9. We change the division sign to multiplication, and we flip the whole number to the fraction of 1/4. So we have 8/9 times 1/4. And number 6, 3/7 divided by 2. Keep 3/7, change the division sign to multiplication, and we flip the whole number to 1/2. Okay, whatever method you used, will you pause now, solve, and then we'll check back to see if we came up with the same solution. All right, so let's look at number 4. This is taking a third of 6/11ths, or 1/3 times 6/11ths. You may have done some cross cancellation before multiplying, which will save you on simplifying. I know that 3 divided by 3 is 3, 6 divided by 3 is 2. And so 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 11 is 11. So 6/11ths divided by 3 is 2/11ths. All right, looking at number 5. If you did keep, change, flip, we have 8/9 times 1/4. And we can do some cross cancellation. We know that 4 divided by 4 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2, and so 2 times 1 is 2, 9 times 1 is 9, and so 8/9 divided by 4 is 2/9. All right, last one. If you did keep, change, flip, we have 3/7 times 1/2. If you were finding 1/2 of 3/7, yours would just be 1/2 times 3/7. And remember, in multiplication, we can switch our factors. The order doesn't matter. We're going to end up with the same product. All right, so no cross cancellation to be done. So 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 7 is 14. And so 3/7 divided by 2 is 3/14. So just to review, today we looked at dividing a fraction by a whole number. So dividing a fractional part into smaller pieces or units. And the first method we looked at was really using a model. So actually looking at a half of a whole, and dividing that half into 3 smaller pieces. And using a model to help us find our solution. The second method we looked at was using the understanding that whenever we divide by a number, we are taking a fractional part of that number. So when we divide 18 divided by 2, we're taking half of 18, and half of 18 is 9. And so the same holds true even when we're dividing with fractions. If we're dividing a number by 3, we're taking 1/3 of a half. And so 1/3 of 1/2, well, we know that of means to multiply, so we just simply have to multiply the fractions. 1/3 times 1/2. And the third method we looked at was kind of the shortcut, the keep, change, flip method. And we learned in this method that the reciprocal is really flipping the numerator and denominator. And when we multiply a number by its reciprocal, we always get 1 whole. And so in the little shortcut method, you keep the first fraction, you change the division sign to multiplication, and you flip the whole number to its reciprocal of 1/3. And then you can multiply and you have your solution. So any three or each of these 3 methods work when you're trying to divide a fraction by a whole number. You just have to choose the one that works best for your brain, the one that makes most sense to you.